It was such a gateway show to heavy metal. Like it wasn't some cornball music that was just like, oh God, this is really, really cringy. Dethklok took care of its own cred with the music that Dethklok put out. Sales or not, we totally understand and understood that, yeah, having a TV show coming on every week, yes, that will help put eyeballs and scope on your material kind of stuff. And we always knew that, people like their cartoon death metal. And, we were very grateful for that. And, we still are to have that kind of following out of the box. We totally understood our place. So that's pretty good. We still dig it. I love the music. Dethklok's one of my favorite bands, period. Just like Strapping Young Lad. If I didn't play in Strapping Young Lad, that would still be one of my all-time favorite metal bands. Dethklok, same thing, totally.
Ghost Cult Mag welcomes in the man, the legend, the wonderful guy, Gene Hoglan. How are you doing, man?
Greetings, Omar. How's everybody doing? Thanks for having me. Nice to be here. Absolutely.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you here, man. I've been a fan of your work for many, 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 many moons. And I had the distinct pleasure of being your stand-in for the Strapping Young Lad Wrong Side video many, many years ago. So I have photos of me on your drum kit and got to be in the video. And it was such a great time.
Nice.
And
with
Dave Brodsky and My Good Eye company.
That's really fun, man. I remember that video shoot, and I remember they had us way up high. They put us up on this big giant riser. I remember it being hotter than hell, and I think we had a bunch of folks there maybe that were acting as the crowd. It was a really fun day, man. Dave was a great director, and that was a good time with that one. Totally.
Yeah, it was great. That was the first time I got to actually see your kit. I saw your kit in pictures and through drum magazines, but this was the first time I got to see your kit in person, sit behind it and just take a real good look at your kit. And
nice.
You're a hell of a player, man, but you've heard that for many, many years.
Oh, I appreciate that, Omar. That's very cool, man. Thank you.
No problem, man. So let's see. Dethklok number 4. Can't believe it finally happened. Very happy for this. I call it double record because I like the secondary record a lot. But it's been a minute between records. And it's been a minute since Dethklok Metalocalypse itself started. Just for a quick reminder, how did you get involved in the project?
Well, I remember I got a call from Brendon about, I think there might have been a couple of episodes that had already been aired. And I got a call from Brendon saying, hey, man, I've got this show. You may be familiar with it because we hadn't met before then. And he had said that I've got from the network and the label, I've got a budget to do a soundtrack album for the first season of Metalocalypse. Might you be interested in doing it? And at that time, I wasn't quite familiar with the show. I knew about it. I knew a lot of my friends, it was the buzz of everything, but I had been spending so much time on the road at that point. I hadn't had a chance to sit down and take a look at it. And when I got to see my first episode, I noticed how badass the music was. The show was pretty darn funny. But the music, like we've talked about it, it was funny, but it ain't no joke. The music was amazing on it. And I was like, how rare is that you could have something on TV that's representing metal with quality, it was good. So I was like, yeah, man, I got back to Brendon and regardless, I was going to probably do the session. It was just a really awesome occurrence that, yes, and the music is badass. So when Brendon sent me the kind of template demos, he sent me about 23 songs and they were all really killer. And I had a chance to check out more of the episodes and check out some of the music. And one thing that I had noticed was this was before there was kind of file sharing and stuff like that. So I got a CD in the mail of some tracks, and each track was 45 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds. And that kind of thing. There was about 16 minutes of music amongst these 23 songs. And I was like, my God, this is about to be the easiest session ever. You got 16 minutes of music. We're going to track this in one day, probably. And so I reached out to Brendon and said, I got the discs. The music sounds great. It sounds really cool, definitely. And that's when Brendon let me know that, because I'd asked him, are we tracking, like 45 seconds of a song kind of thing? And that's when he explained that how the process was going to work was, he told me that that he gets a call from the like the art department or whatever, the animation department, saying, we need 40 seconds of music right here. So he's like, I will just go into my office and pull some drum tracks off of one of the drum track programming things and just bash out a song really quick, send it over, and that's all. Whatever's in the episode, that's all the song is. It's not like we take a piece of an existing song and just drop it in there. That's the entire song. So I was like, wow, okay, well, there you go. That's pretty fun. And he's like, we're gonna have to figure out a way in the studio to flesh out, whatever 30-second piece of music this is. We got to flesh that out into a full 3-4 minute song kind of thing. So that was part of the super duper fun of the first, the fun challenge of the first album, was getting to put songs together from scratch. That was, it was a really magical time. And that's when, Dethklok was getting the world's ear kind of thing, or the skates' ear anyway, and eyes. So it was a really fun first record. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember it's like, oh, wait a minute, they expanded the theme song a little bit longer, and it's like, oh, this is cool. And then, stuff like Hatred Copter, it's like, oh, this is really banging tunes. But I also remember, like, the metal purists were like, this isn't a real band. How is this like become like the one of the number one, the top selling metal records, period? And it's like, what's going on?
Death metal album in history.
I'm like, why the hell not? It's like, how dare this beat Cannibal Corpse or something? I was like, hey, you know what? This has got more eyeballs. I love Cannibal. This is good stuff too. It's like, this is not, yeah, you said it's funny, but it's not, but it's serious,
right.
And I appreciate that. And a lot of people at that time, I remember, were like, meh, but then a lot of people I know came around to it and love it.
Yeah, and that kind of thing. I will freely admit, if something isn't to your taste, God, just go pay attention to something else. I'm not a big like message board reader, or folks' comments and stuff like that. I mean, it's nice when people like something. It's nice when they don't like something, but chances are I never catch I don't catch their comments either way, really. So that's how I'm able to just like, God, I do this from here, and I've never tried to make anybody else happy. And if enough people like the show and still like the show, and it was such a gateway show to heavy metal. Like, it wasn't some cornball music that was just like, oh God, this is really, really cringy. Dethklok took care of its own cred with the music that Dethklok put out, like Metalocalypse, all that. They took care of their own cred. That's, you listen to any Dethklok album, sales or not, we totally understand and understood that, yeah, having a TV show coming on every week, yes, that will help put eyeballs and scope on your material kind of stuff. And we always knew that, people like their cartoon death metal, and we were very grateful for that, and we still are, to have that kind of following out of the box. We totally understood our place, so that's pretty good. We still dig it. I love the music. Dethklok's one of my favorite bands, period. Just like Strapping Young Lad. If I didn't play in Strapping Young Lad, that would still be one of my all-time favorite metal bands. Dethklok, same thing, totally
understand that. It's just fun. It's just like it's good to have music it's just fun metal. It's like, it's like death metal. Like, there's not many, I don't think fun metal, but it's like a lot of death metal. It's like, it's brutal, but it's just, it makes you smile. I don't know how to put it. It's just like the lyrics are just fun. It's like, it's got a character to it. That's not like, I don't have to be all like arms crossed, like, yes, I'm super serious all the time. But it's like, we're kind of tongue in cheek, and I love that about it, because it's like, yeah, you can be serious, you can be like silly in certain aspects, but when it comes to the musicianship, it shuts everybody up. You can't. It's unfuckwithable.
Darn tootin'. That's a great term. I love that term, man. Unfuckwithable. Darn tootin'. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like putting a smile on people's face at the end of the night. Awesome. Yeah, that's a cool way to live a life or a career. It's like when everybody's got a big smile. Death metal, you can have the big grr face going all night. The badass face. But at the end of the night, when you've been cracking up because the visuals is killer, the vocal, I mean, the lyrics are killer, the musicianship is super tight and awesome. It is a definite onslaught on the senses, like we pummel you, like Dethklok is a pummeling live band. So how can you not just come out of there with a big smile on your face? So, there you go. Like I said, I wouldn't hear many complaints if there were, but there don't seem to be all that many. So a lot of folks come to the shows and they all seem to enjoy it. So there you go, man. Pretty darn badass.
Yeah, yeah. So about the new record, so you just talked about how you recorded the first record. How has that styles changed in recording the new one? Did you guys get together and just jam everything out, or like I interviewed him earlier, but I want to hear your perspective on how the writing process was for number 4.
This one was drastically different, and this was for me. This was the very first Dethklok album that I ever was in, that I've been involved in, where I got to jam the songs in advance. Because Brendon had been working on the movie for some time, and with the movie, that means he was starting to write tracks for the movie. So he was we had full tracks, for the most part, and Brendon's really, really good with, if he needs a track like that, he can put an entire track together overnight, and he's really, really good at that. It's pretty amazing. So I remember being in the studio and fleshing out a tune that we didn't have this song 3 days ago, and all of a sudden, we had one piece of a riff, and then the next day after that, we got an entire song that we're tracking, and so this is the first album that I got a chance to prepare with, where Brendon had sent me some demos prior to being in the studio, kind of thing, where I had them in enough time to sit at the drum kit here and jam them out. So I got to go into this session being pretty confident in the material, knowing, having my parts together. Like that was the thing with like the first album, and a lot of the second album is with Dethklok, since they are a band, you have to make the material sound like a band has lived with this material and put a lot of love and fussings into it for months and months and months before they go in and record their record. That's what we had to do in like kind of 2-hour increments. Like on the first album, we would work on 2 songs a day. Brendon would show me the song in the morning. We would flesh out kind of the complete a song, working it out in the first part of the day. Then I would take just a couple of minutes, head outside, get my head together, and then come back and track the entire song that was not a song, like 3 hours ago. And so I would track it, and we would do that 2 times in a day. And that was always the challenge, was trying to make whatever song you're working on sound like you've put 6 months of effort into it, but you have about 2 hours, kind of thing. So that kind of thing. So this album was a little bit different. I had some tracks in advance, and that was really fun to work some parts out. And Brendon is an amazing drum programmer, and he's always like, I program them, I get the basic template there, you do your thing with it. And there are so many times where I'm like, Brendon, this is, there's this weirdo beat that you wrote, that you just, however you put it together is so killer. I want to track to this, whatever this weird thing you put together, I want to track to it, because you get the drum performance or the drum personality that you're looking for, and I get to look like a genius because I came up with this really cool part that, shoot, I just mimicked, kind of thing. That's how it works for me with a lot of drum programmers and things, where I take the credit for being a genius and they're the ones that actually came up. And a lot of times they come up with things kind of as a mistake. It's like, I'll have to get back to them and say, you do realize that this part that you programmed, it will take 4 arms and 3 legs to play. And they're like, oh, shoot, I didn't know that. I'm not a drummer. I don't know. And so I'm like, but however, I'll figure out a way to make it, this 4-arm, 3-legged thing, I'll do my best to try to make it sound, like what you programmed or whatever your vision is for the part. I'll do my best to try to make it as close to your vision as I can, being a mortal with, four appendages kind of thing. So that's always a fun approach to my career of drumming. Absolutely. And Dethklok is no different. It's always a blast to put the albums together. It's great to work with Brendon. It's great to work with Ulrich Wild, our producer. It's just us three usually, and it's always a really good time. We have our routine down. God, we've done 4 Dethklok albums, 2 Galacticon albums, a Metalocalypse clock opera, and there's probably another couple other things we've done. We've done like 7 or 8 projects together over the years. So we got a nice little, triple tandem team going of it's a cool little team that we got, and it's always really, really fun.
I'm a big fan of Galacticon. I really love that first record so much. It's literally one of my favorite records. I like to call it, if Pickles had a side band, that's what it would sound like vocally.
Hey,
but like musically, it's
right?
like the songs that just didn't fit in the Dethklok sound, but they're just, I love like the thrashiness of it, the melodicness of it. And I loved his Queen, his Brian May like sounding guitar leads.
Right.
It just makes you smile. Like, God damn, this is good. And like, it's like those records, like, I just love those records. I wish that after, when guys got some downtime, I would love to see some of that hit the road. Cause I know there was 1 or 2 shows they did out in LA, but you weren't on it. But I would love to see like some more of that.
I always, I kind of always envisioned like a fantastic like evening of kind of set is, especially after we did that clock opera, would be like opening band Galacticon. Then we come out and do the entire Doomstar Requiem, and then we end the night with a full Dethklok set and make it like 3 different bands, put the little half-hour break in between or whatever, 15-minute break, and just have an evening with. And I remember bringing that up to Brendon, and he's like, great idea, but man, my voice, I don't know how long I could carry on all 3 projects. It's challenging enough to get through 1 Dethklok show. So, but his voice is super strong, and it's going to be killing and crushing on the next tour. So, but yeah, that would be my dream Dethklok, kind of night. Some Galacticon, some Doomstar Requiem, and then end it off with a big old fat Dethklok set. Totally.
Nice. And now you got on the road. Not only do you have Pete filling in for Brian, you also have, like, I noticed even on the last tour, it was surprised to see Laura out there popping out on a couple of tunes.
Right. That's always super fun, and for me, and the band loves her, and they love it when she shows up, and it really fleshes out the sound, because I mean, Dethklok, it is a 2 guitar band, but so much of the music is so layered, and you hear 3 to 4 guitars going on at one time. And so, it just kind of thickens everything up when you have that 3rd guitarist playing, whether it be Laura or whoever it might be. It gets really thick, and hopefully it would also let Brendon just kind of like relax just slightly, to where it's like I got 2 guitarists in tandem right next to me, and I remember mentioning one time, he's like, it's actually not a bad thing having two ladies next to you, ripping it up on the metal. That's not a bad thing to have. I think that's pretty darn cool. But so it's always fun when she can make it, and that's very cool. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was happy to catch her in New York, and it was a blast.
Killer.
Like, no, you've worked with her like on other things, the Meldrum
right
album. Like, what's like for you? Like, what's like? I think you guys are like one of the quintessential like metal couples. It's like, hey, you guys been together for a good long while, and you guys work together, and you guys don't work together. But many people get nervous about working with their partners, and I appreciate that you guys make that work when you guys do work.
Absolutely. She's my best friend. She's my best little buddy. So, and she's such an amazing talent, and she's such a sweet person. Like, regardless of her musical genius, she's just really fun to be around. She got a great sense. We just click. Like we are peas and carrots. Everybody that knows her, that meets her, is just like, man, that is one that is the unicorn. That's what we refer to her as, the unicorn. She's the one, and she's such a talented player and such a talented riff writer. Like, my God, nobody writes riffs like Laura Christine, and you'll be hearing her stuff, because we have project, our project together that is that's some next level metal right there. Holy Jesus. And so, her talent is amazing. And I just always feel really fortunate if she gets involved in any of the projects that I'm involved in. And I'm speaking that as a player, as a musician, not because we have a relationship or anything. I'm just saying that as a player, it's like when Laura gets involved, it's like, yeah, man, here comes the wolf, like from Pulp Fiction. You're gonna have some badassery going on there. So one other project that we're involved in is the new Bear McCreary project, which is now starting to make its way out there. And his album is called The Singularity, and that thing drops on May 10th. And as a matter of fact, Lara is up in LA today as we speak, and they're all divvying up the guitar parts because she's in the band. Bear asked her to be in the band, and she plays all over the record. She's on a bunch of tunes, and there's a song called Incinerator that is the latest single, and that just dropped last week. And Bear sent me a little screenshot of their little TikTok video they put together. I think it had 5 million views, and that was last weekend, so it could be up to like 10 million now, kind of thing. And the song rips, man. It's got Serge Tankian on vocals. And on the album, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more leaks and things like that. Just the details of that album's coming up. And it's called The Singularity, and it is a singular record, man. I've never been on an album like this. I love all the Devon records I've done and all the Strapping, all the Dethklok and all that. I love all of those albums so much. And this album has probably the grandest scope of any album I've been involved in, and it is pretty amazing. It is ball-crushingly heavy, and it's also mind-numbingly beautiful. It really does run the gamut in so many ways. And all the guest vocalists, all the guest players. I mean, it's up on Bear's website. It's got a list of all the players up, and that's not even all the players. That's just a lot of the featured folks. It reads like a who's who of metal, rock, music in general. From Rufus Wainwright to Kim Thayil. That kind of Joe Satriani to Slash kind of thing. So
nice.
I'm really looking forward to the album coming out, man. That, like I said, it comes out in May, and we have our first show in May as well, May 12th, at the Henry Fonda Theater in LA. And that's just the kind of album release show. Album comes out a couple days before. It's gonna be pretty darn fun, and so pretty stoked for that. It is a weighty project, I tell you.
I think I might have to book a plane ticket.
Right, boy, you're gonna want to definitely
gonna try to have to hit up Bear's people. I'll be like, hey man, let's talk.
There you go, absolutely.
But before we move on, I just want to give her some more flowers. Like I believe it was the Dreaming Dead, her old band. That's where I first was. It Dreaming Dead that Laura had?
Well, she was helping them out with Dreaming Dead. Her band at that time was called Warface, and it had you been in the California kind of general area, you might have caught them because they did a lot of shows back in those days. And it was a situation where Dreaming Dead needed a guitarist in a kind of an emergency situation. So they'd reached out to Lara, and so she was like, yeah, man. They were on the road with Nile and Immolation, and
that's where I met her on that tour.
Excellent. You're right on, man. Yeah, what a great tour, man. I got to catch a couple of shows, and that was killer, man. Nile, always amazing. Immolation, always amazing. So that was really, really cool, man. And Lara kicking ass with Dreaming Dead. That was good. A good bill, absolutely.
Yeah, and I look forward to what happens the next phase of Dark Angel too with her.
So I am very excited about that, and hopefully at some point real soon, I know I've been really, really cryptic over the last few months, because a lot of folks are starting to ask a lot of questions now, and because they see a whole lot of activity happening with Dark Angel, but they're like, "Where is this leading? Are you guys just playing some shows or whatever? What's your deal, dude?" And hopefully, I'm not trying to be real mysterious about anything, but I just want to be able to announce a few really awesome announcements when we have some dates, like some dates available for to go along with the announcements, because I could say some really, really vague things, but I want to start evolving these vagaries into concrete, like, yes, this is what you get to talk about, or this is what you get to look forward to, kind of thing. And so that is coming hopefully sooner than later, because there has been a lot of activity on the Dark Angel front, and all of it is super amazing and super positive. Just it's really killer. So
yeah, if it's not
really
positive,
stoked.
why not? Why do it?
I agree. It's always, all the news we have is everything's going in fantastic directions all over the place, with Dark Angel, with Death to All, with Dethklok, with Bear McCreary. So it's a really fun time in our world, in my professional world and personal world, all that stuff, so things are going super awesome, and I'm stoked. Things are going great.
Yeah, I gotta since we're talking about your career basically just now, just like your current career, I gotta talk about some of your earlier records that I really enjoyed. Like everybody talks about Death, like Death to All is great. Can't it's it has its place in the world. It's wonderful, but some of your lesser known projects I've always enjoyed. I don't know if they were just session work, but I really love that Just Cause record you did way back.
Killer! God, you're
I
the
was like,
first person to ever bring that thing up. Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome.
I found that I got that record way back when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is really good." And it was
Right
a
on,
great
man.
logo too. That logo was a dope logo, and that was just a fun record. I wish that I would love to a re-release of that, because it's so hard to find.
It sure is. My sister did that logo for us. Yeah, I remember that. The JC and the chains. My sister was
Yes.
really good at making chains, like the old Gene Hoglan logo. Chains. An old Wasp logo, I believe, that she had done for the band way, way back in the day. Chains. She's good at drawing chains. So, but that album, yeah, that was such a killer record. It was that it featured Patrick Bowdewine from Punch Drunk, the Almighty Punch Drunk, which was one of my other killer bands from Vancouver. Just Cause was a Vancouver-based band. Patrick was from Montreal, Quebec, and it also had our brother Rico Forrester on it, and also Val the Heathen from Zimmer's Hole was the vocalist, doing a great job there. And our bassist was Stuart Carruthers, who was also in Grip Inc. at the same time. So he'd be like, he would tell us, he's like, I got a pretty good life. I just played with Dave Lombardo 2 days ago, and I fly in, and here we are playing with Gene and this project. So as a bassist, I'm rocking. So, but yeah, that was a really fun record. Impossible to find. It's called Finger It Out. It came out. Devin produced it. I think we tracked that thing in like maybe 2000, probably 99, 2001. We put the band together in like 1997. And for any fans of Just Cause, I would suggest checking out on YouTube the Almighty Punch Drunk, and a lot of the same members and a lot of the same kind of approach. And that was a pretty magical time in the Vancouver metal scene, was having Strapping Young Lad, Zimmer's Hole, the Almighty Punch Drunk, Just Cause, Bomb Scare, and a number of the other bands in Vancouver. When I moved up to Vancouver to become a part of Strapping Young Lad, I looked around the scene and I was like, every other scene I've been around sucks compared to what's going on in Vancouver right now. Like, God, Jesus, it's just a shame that it is tucked away in a hidden corner of the world, Vancouver, Canada, man. That's not a hotbed of the musical, attention. You're kind of up in the missing persons file up there. So, but they had a great scene, and a lot of killer bands came from it. Like 4 that I can think of. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's where I actually found Ash from through that little area,
Right.
because like he was like part of your little drum too. He was like one of your drum techs at the time, and like
Yeah.
so it's like so like okay, and now I know he's I don't know what's going on with that Zimmer's whole like reach thing over there, but I bug Jed every so often because he's here in the
Right.
state, he's here in like Philly, and I'm just like, hey man, when are we gonna? What's up with that? Or what's
Yeah.
up with Tenet? Come on, it's been a minute.
Right.
Come on, like you've put out some great stuff. And even if it's just like one song here or there, it would just be great to hear. As like, yeah, you're all great players, and he's a wonderful guitarist and person. And like,
Absolutely.
he needs he needs more spotlights. Like him and
I
Laura, they both need more spotlights on those people.
darn tootin'. I agree, man, fully. And that, that was really fun jamming with Jed and Laura in Zimmer's Hole because she was a part of Zimmer's Hole there for a minute. And that was pretty mighty era at that point. And Jed's amazing. It's always great to go to Philly and see him and Susanna and Eddie. And I know he has a little bit of Tenet news on the horizon, which is it's very cool for those who have not heard Sovereign. It's good news in that front. That's I would let Jed make all the announcements on it, but he just recently reached out to me and said he's got some interesting news on that, and so that's pretty good. If you haven't heard Tenet's initial record called Sovereign, good possibility you might be able to get your hands on it really soon. And let me tell you, Mr. Zet, holy moly, Zet Sousa on that, my God, what a vocal performance on that. Just so savage. I mean, Zet was on fire. That was the chips on his shoulder at that time were huge, because I think he was maybe out of Exodus at that point. It could have been the Rob Dukes era of Exodus. And Zet was a man on a mission with a lot to prove. And holy moly, he proved it on that record, man. That is such an incredible, wonderful, amazing, just heavy duty performance from Zet Sousa. Absolutely, man. Totally.
Yeah. I know how hard touring is. Like as fun as it is for the fan to see. I understand how taxing financially it can be for bands, but I'm really great that we have these albums to listen to of, like, hey, this band may not tour, but at least you have this record that you can listen to. And I'm a big
Right.
fan of like just make a couple videos here and there. Videos will help like keep the band's name out there like longer. Like, oh, if you're back up in Canada, do a Just Cause song and just throw it out there. People are like, what is this? Is this new? Like, no, this is a remember this project. It's like remind this.
I actually tried that in the pandemic. I went and re-recorded some of the Punch Drunk album, and I reached out to Cam Croach, our the man behind Punch Drunk, and that was Patrick and Cam were the guitarists back then. Shane Clark ended up joining Punch Drunk when Patrick left, and Shane Clark went on to be, he was the man behind 3 Inches of Blood there for a long time. And I reached out to those guys and said, hey man, I tracked I retracked about 7 Punch Drunk songs, video, played them, and I was just like, hey, you guys, if you get a chance to drop down some guitar magic on this, you can do some vocals on it. We could just put something out there for the pandemic, and life took over for everybody, and it just didn't. It wasn't, it did not come to fruition. But I know there's drum parts. There are drum parts in the file somewhere that all they need is some guitar parts thrown on them. It'd just be a fun little thing to do. It was when I was doing all those Death to All, pandemic videos kind of thing. It was same kind of concept. So
Yeah. And also another project of yours that I really enjoyed was Pitch Black Forecast. And I'll
thank
say
you.
the song Halt is like that rhythm, that melody in that song is great. I don't call it a breakdown, but like that guitar and the way it just has a nice, I'm gonna put this song on repeat and just chill out for the day because it's just a fun song.
Nice. Yeah, that was a pretty good one, man. And Absentee was the first album that we did, and that was originally going to be J Man, who's a dear friend of mine. He had reached out and he had the concept for a project band that was going to be like, let's have a song that sounds like Obituary and get Trevor Paris to play on it. Let's have a song that sounds like Dillinger Escape Plan and get Ben Weinman to play on it. And a song that sounds like Meshuggah and get Frederick to play on it, and even have these guys write the songs and all that. And I remember at that point, Jay was putting out. He had already put out the I EP from Meshuggah on his record label, Fractured Transmitter. He had reached out to Frederick to say, "Hey, man, do you want to be involved in this?" And Frederick said, "Yeah, man, tell you what, here's a song." Sent over a song, and tell you what, maybe you guys could put this song as the last song on your album, and Meshuggah will put the same song as the first song on our album. And I remember Jay played me the song, and from a drum standpoint, I of course just about cried at like, really? And he was like, the song isn't as technical as we're used to. This is like, it's kind of a little step outside of what we normally do. I heard the drum pattern in it, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It will take me 6 months to learn this drum pattern. And that song ended up being Bleed. And I remember talking to Thomas one time, and he's like, "It took me 6 months to learn that thing." I was like, "Okay, good," because I heard it. And I was just like, "Wait a minute, what? We're going in to record this album in like 3 days. So I don't know what we can do about putting this song on this record here, guys." And even Thomas was like, "Yeah, man, that took me 6 months, and I hate that song." Kind of thing, So, but that was pretty damn fun, man. So, Bleed was written for a Pitch Black Forecast.
Wow.
Record. We ended up not going with that concept. We became a band pretty quickly, and just kind of wrote our own material, kind of thing, pretty quick. And I wrote some tunes for it. And we did this other EP. It had a lot more songs. What was it called? Burning in Water, Drowning in Flame. It was like a 4 or 5 song EP. It was out on all the Spotify's and things like that. And then it just disappeared. But that thing was that's when we were starting to really become a band and start to really work on the material. And there was those 4 or 5 songs, and then all the other songs that we didn't get a chance to record at that time, those were all really cool too. So there are, for every, it's always like a tip of the iceberg. You might be able to get 4 or 5 songs out there, but then there's 9 other songs that just didn't make it on the recording that are just as cool, just as killer, that may never see the light of day, kind of thing. And that's always a shame, but I guess that's kind of par for the course in the industry, like kind of tip of the iceberg. You get a little bit of this band's material, but you don't get to hear it all, but it's there in demo form somewhere, kind of thing. That happens.
Yeah, hopefully. You never know, man. It's like I appreciate, like, you've been putting out like such quality stuff over years, and it's like the way you hit studios and record stuff with, "Yeah, you need a drummer? Okay, I'll help you out here, do a thing." You've done so much work just in the studio and live. Like, your ability to recall songs and learn material on the fly gives me anxiety. Like, I'm a drummer too, and it's like, I remember like the first time I recorded, like, it was like, I was a young kid, it was rough, and I remember I have one record out there, one real adult, like, signed record label record out there. I don't talk about it because I'm not happy with my performance on it. But yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I got, it's like I got hit in the middle of that panic. Like, oh God, I know all these songs, but my body's not cooperating with me. Like, yesterday we're practicing it, it was great, but now we're recording it, and I'm like, I can't play like I played yesterday, and I couldn't get out of that, and I just got stuck, and then like we worked around it. But it's like, I wish we just like, hey, I wish, the band I was in at the time and the producer just kind of just slapped me around a little bit harder and just like, let's get you through this, because you were playing this yesterday before we recorded during the rehearsals. But now it's like I totally forgot how to play drums. Like, I forgot how to play like double bass. My feet just said no.
Omar, I've been in the exact same position on a number of occasions. It happens to every player, every musician, every human. It happens where, exactly. I had this yesterday in the rehearsal studio. I have played this exact part before. Right now, right here, right at this moment, I can't do it, but I've done it. And all your bandmates are like, "We've seen you do it. You've done it." So I've been in the exact same situation. I can recall an exact situation where that exact thing has happened to me. And it's happened on a number of occasions where sometimes you have to augment the part there's parts on Dark Angel Records, parts on Strapping Young Lad Records, parts on Dethklok albums. It even happens these days where you're like, I can do this. I can effing do this. This is in my wheelhouse, but for whatever reason, feats don't fail me now, but yet they will.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, and it's still kind of like, it still like bugs me just a little bit, but now that I kind of like moved away from bands. It's like I have like, I have 2 projects of bands of material written. It's like, oh yeah, we have 2 different records that we're waiting to record, like officially re-record stuff, and it's like, I'll get to you when I feel less like less anxious about it, because it's like I start thinking about like, oh god, can I pull it off? Like I don't want everybody waiting on me because I got to put down the drums. What if I mess up here? I can't, like that's been my little like hiccup in music nowadays. But my issue, but a nice thing I do to myself to torture myself is these videos. Like when this video comes out, the intro music and outro music for Ghost Cult is one of my bands. So like, I'm hearing my own music, and people in the comments go, what song is this? Like, oh, that's one of my songs. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just like a demo version of one of my songs, and it feels nice that people like that songs. But I'm like, shit, I need to re-record this in a full version so people can hear it eventually.
Right. Well, there you go. And especially with modern technology being what it is, you don't need a giant budget, and you can think of a song today, record it tomorrow, have it on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, whatever, 3 days from now. So you're in a good position for getting your own music out there. Absolutely. But yeah, man, that red light fever, it happens to us all. Totally. It still does. I've done, I don't even know how many albums I've done, somewhere in the 60 maybe range of records. And yeah, you can still get red light fever. You can still be like, shoot, man, I had this in the rehearsal studio, and now we have to change the part because I can't do it right. It happens totally.
Yeah, yeah. Like talking about it out loud sometimes with other people that have more experience at it kind of helps me like get over it. So like me putting it out there now, it's like, all right, I'm trying to get it out there. It's like I have my electronic kits in the corner, and it's like I try not to use it too much as like a coat rack, but sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, I need to touch you today. I should get on you and mess around, but sometimes it's like,
no. Well, one thing that I have always noticed, and this is something that I will always keep into consideration, and all musicians do need to do, you should have this approach as well. Every musician should, if they do not. And we all know we're our own worst critics, of course. Something like I have crabbed about that drummer on Darkness Descends so much over the years. I hate that drummer on Darkness Descends. I've crabbed about that guy so much that even Laura has said, dude, you realize you're talking smack about the drummer on an album that a lot of people enjoy, helped create people's lives, helped create people's careers, helped create, had an influence and impact on people. Why do you want to talk shit about the performance of the drums when that drummer was 18 years old? Stop doing that. So, and that's just me being my own worst critic, and I've come a long way since then, but that does not give me the right to go back and crab about the drum performance on that record, because it had a wonderful impact on a number of folks. And when we are our own worst critic, we will notice things about our own playing that nobody will ever notice. If I make a mistake live, I let that thing go so fast, because chances are, you played this part 1,000 times correctly. Tonight, you dropped a stick, you fluffed something, you dropped the ball on something. Is anybody from the crowd going to go home and go, that gig was cool, but the gig sucked in the end because that drummer didn't play the part right? Nobody's going to notice that. Nobody's going to care. So, all is good.
Yeah, I get that.
Just don't be too hard on yourself. That's all I'm saying.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you.
Yeah, and man.
I really appreciate your time, man. I just got a few more for you, then I'll let you enjoy the rest of your night.
Tell you what, I got to answer the door real quick. Come on in. Hello, Thumper. Oh, hey, Rick. How are you, brother? How you doing, man?
That was pretty cozy over there.
Yeah, just doing an interview. You doing
right
good?
On. All right, brother. Go get it then.
All right, brother. Love you,
man.
man.
Say hi to whoever it is.
All right. Say hey to Omar. Say hey to RickStonejack.com.
Hey, Rick, what up, buddy?
What's happening?
Right on, man.
You look relaxed, Gene. You look good.
I'm like Laura says, hey, you like this story. It's about yourself. So, I can talk about me. No problem. All is good. I sent you those files. I hope you got them.
Cool. Thank you. I got them.
Killer, man. Yes. Download them here while you can, because that'll be quick.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah, man, they'll go quick. Love you, brother. We'll see you soon. That's my brother-in-law, Rick, who has he's got his drum studio, Rick Stojack's drum studio, right across the hallway. So, we got the best of both worlds. We got family in here all the time. His wife is a drummer. His wife, Julia, Laura's sister, is a drummer. Her feet destroy mine. Like Julia's feet, she's got the fastest feet. She's even got tattoos of cheetah prints on the tops of her feet. We call her cheetah feet, because she's so effing fast on the double kicks, blisteringly fast. Her feet destroy mine. So you got Julia, you got Rick, you got Gene, and then when you got Lara, when we're all out to dinner or something, the drummers just overtake the guitar conversation real quick.
Oh yeah. I get that. What cymbal do you like today? I like this cymbal today. What drum head are you using today? Oh, this one's
absolutely.
I'm in this head.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we could go off on a drum tangent. And that's all Rick and I pretty much ever talk about. We just talk drums all the time. And so especially when Julia's there, she's no slouch on the drum knowledge herself. And Lara has learned quite a bit about drumming through the three of us, totally.
Yeah. And now, speaking of drumming, another thing that I remember, I forgot where you mentioned it, but either in person or someplace else, I remember you mentioning it. Stevie Wonder and
right.
The OG blast beats creating. I remember looking up that drum solo from the 60s, and it's like, whoo, man, it's like you weren't wrong. It's like it's right. So ahead of its time.
Absolutely, like 1967, that black and white. He just climbs up on the kit and that drum solo, double basses churning, and all of a sudden, I'm like, that is a blast beat. BPMs were flying in 1967. Those were flying. I'm sure people saw that and said, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen on drums. It was the mic from Suffocation, that bomb blast or whatever that thing's called, I never know the titles of blasts, but it was that thing, the progenitor of that back in 1967. So thank you, Stevie, for creating the blast beat. Darn cute.
Yeah, that solo is just full of so many good parts. It's like, oh man, the blast beat, it's just some grooves in there he's pulling off. You're like, whoa, wait, he's like, wait, this is 1960, what? And he just can't.
Right.
And so it sounds like if you you could literally take that and just throw some guitars on it, and you could probably make a song off of that. And you're like, okay,
absolutely.
You think it's not metal? Here, check this out. Boom, you're like,
right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a great idea, man. Give me some ideas. That's really fun.
I remember I got to do NAMM a couple years back, in 2015, and Stevie came I was working with a company, and at the last day, he came down they brought him down to the basement level, to the small level, the small companies, and he just went around to different companies, trying different gear and playing with the musicians at the booth. So it was really cool. I got a really cool Stevie Wonder mini concert, and he's just calling out chords, playing synthesizers with other guys. He's like, E, G, just calling stuff out, and people trying to keep up with him. And it was the best experience at NAMM I've ever had, and I can't top a free Stevie Wonder concert.
That is amazing, darn tootin', man, absolutely. I've got a similar story, NAMM of maybe 2010, maybe 2011. Stevie walked by. He had an entourage of folks. I just stepped into his entourage, and I walked, and nobody was like, "Hey man, who are you? Get the." I'm this far away from Stevie Wonder, and I'm filming the entire thing, and his back is right there, and I'm like, "I love you, Stevie." Like, yeah, thanks, man. And just I kept just touching his back. I love you, Stevie. And I just followed them the whole route that they were going. They ended up at the Pearl booth, and Pearl had just released their electronic kits that looked like real drum kits, and so whatever year that was, it might have been 2012 maybe, or 2009, something like that. I saw all my Pearl guys, and Stevie came and he sat at the kit that is sitting right in front of me. So I got my own personal Stevie concert. It's playing electronics. He's got the headphones on. I can't hear what he's playing, but I can sure see what he's playing and make it out. And it's like, you are from Mars. This is so cool. One of the greatest little musical moments of my life up to that point. And there's Stevie Wonder right there. God, I remember like Pearl was making a big giant deal out of me that year. So right behind him, there's like this video wall, giant, 90 feet long, 30 feet high, kind of enormous video wall. That was just on this loop of about 3 different drummers with about 2 minutes of each drummer. And I was one of those 3 drummers. So, and I was like, oh my God, I could have taken a shot of, angled the shot where there's Stevie, there's me in the background. I never even thought to do that. And this was before I ever had I didn't even have a smartphone at the time. So this must have been like 2009 or something like that. So that was pretty damn fun. I tell you, that's a dream gig. Shoot, that's why he's my favorite drummer. Just his approach. It comes from such left field. He's attacking the drums like a non-drummer would, and that's what makes his playing so special. And his mind works in a way that the average drummer's mind wouldn't think to work, and that's what makes that really cool. And I've always kind of wondered. It's like, I wonder why Stevie started playing drums on his own stuff, and I was like, I bet you it's probably because I'm Stevie. I have all these ideas. I can't get a drummer to comprehend what I'm just trying to feel, with my playing. So just give me those sticks. I'll do it myself. And then I'll get the feel that I'm looking for. I can only assume, but that's what I figure might be happening on something like that. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like he's like, you could say he's technically like the original drum machine, because everybody, it's like all these non-drummers program these drum beats, and he's like, here, play this. It's like, I can't. You said like, I only have 4 limbs. It's like, right. I need 8. So he's doing like, I got this, because he just, thinking outside the box is like one of the things that makes him good. It's like, just sometimes you just gotta like, it's good to know the basics and just be like straight and consistent. There's a lot of great people that just play with the groove, but don't like, try something different. Try to make it like, just go wild. Just let your imagination, just let the drums tell you where they want to go. And some people like hold that back. And he's one person that never does.
And like an example of just typical Martian nuts from Stevie is, that kind of like little bridge part in like Too High off the Intervision record, first song, first track on the record, and the bass line, all that stuff is going on, and he's doing this crazy whacked out this this underneath everything. It's like no drummer would think to do that, but it's like, and it sounds like almost like he like when the old CDs would skip that digital like kind of thing. It sounds like Stevie's mind just went into this like mental digital skip for 3 seconds, and he pulls himself back out of that lick. It's just like it was a scratch on the digital album of his, the music of his mind. And it's just a really neat part. There's like the keyboard fluff on top of it. He's doing this crazy lick where it's a bugga 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 bugga. It's that same kind of blast beat. I doubt he's playing double bass on this, so it's floor tom, crash at the same time, unison with the kick on the opposite, and it's just this crazy fun little, his little solo in that is just bizarre anyway, and then it just ends with that little like, oh shoot, what's happening, okay, now we're back in it. Really magical musical part. Absolutely.
Now, besides one day hopefully you'll get to work with Stevie, is there any other styles or anything else you have yet to like, I want to like to do something in this style? I haven't done this. I would like to see what I would do in this era, in this area.
Well, I know this might be, I would say this with all respect and all respect to one of my drumming idols and drumming influences, but even if Mr. Neil Peart was still with us, I would love to jam with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson someday because I'm such an old school Rush fan. If they were like I've joked about it, like I'll take the Pepsi challenge with any drummer playing the old Neil Peart stuff. Spot on. I'm a really, really, really good mimic. And Neil Peart was my initial drum teacher, like that was who I taught myself how to play drums with. So jamming with Alex and Geddy just as humans, because they seem like really, really awesome guys, like Alex on the Trailer Park Boys. If you've ever seen the episode that he was on, or at least the first episode he was on, I don't know if you're familiar with the Trailer Park Boys.
I've seen 1 or 2 episodes, not that one.
Check out the episode Closer to the Heart. Holy moly, Alex Lifeson deserves an Emmy for his acting ability. He is amazing. Like, that's where you're like, yes, this man gets it. Definitely does not take himself too seriously. Geddy Lee does not. Mr. Neil Peart definitely didn't. These guys as a collective, they never took themselves too seriously. And it's on Netflix. If you got Netflix, man, check out Closer to the Heart. It's episode 6, I think, on season 3. It is arguably one of the greatest half hours in television history, I think. But Alex is amazing in it, and so, at that, I'd love to do that, and I love jamming funk, I love jamming funk. I'd love to, fortunately, I've gotten to play with a couple of, really cool players and bands that were some dream bands to play with. I got to play with those bands at one point. One was a band from the Bay Area called Merv, and MIRV, and those guys are some serious players. Got to jam with those guys, and the Kehoe Nation. That's Brian Kehoe from Merv, and Brian Kehoe is also the face of Dunlop, guitars, picks, strings, and all that. Anytime you see an interview with Dunlop interviews Zakk Wylde or Kerry King or something, chances are it's probably Brian Kehoe who has done the interview, and he's an amazing player, and I've gotten to play with his band, Kehoe Nation. They're pretty incredible. They have an album called The Devil's Acre Overture. They have a couple albums out. One is called Music for Livers, and the like livers, and the other one is The Devil's Acre Overture, and I suggest anybody check that one out. I don't play on that album, but I played all of those songs with them live, and I do try to. They've got one of my favorite drummers, a drummer named Wes Anderson. He's an amazing drummer. Brian Kehoe used to play in Blind Illusion back in the day, and he also played, and also Wes Anderson was also in Blind Illusion, and Kehoe, he's played with Ministry. He was with Jerry Cantrell's band when they had Robert Trujillo on bass and Mike Borden on drums, and so he's got a serious musical pedigree. It's always great to jam with him. He's one of my best pals, and he's great. So there's an example of a couple of styles. Merv, Kehoe Nation, all great players, all great guys, and that was a real honor when I got to play one set with Merv one time, because they were my favorite band, totally. So they're pretty fun. Can't find too much of their stuff on iTunes or Spotify, but you can find it all on YouTube. They had Merv's first album was called Feeding Time on Monkey Island. Well, that was their second album, but that was the first one I got exposed to. And then their third album was called Dancing Naked in a Minefield. Check out the tune Cool. And that's a pretty darn cool song. Check out the song Chupacabra. Check out the song Unabomber. That'll give you the gist of what Merv sounded like. So if anybody wants to do a fun YouTube deep dive, Merv, Kehoe Nation, you can't go wrong with those. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Before I get ready to wrap it up for real this time, I'll just say Rush. My first Rush record, I was a later day Rush fan. So I worked at a Guitar Center at the time. So I had the Anatomy of a Drum Solo video, and so my first experience was Test for Echoes. That was that's my first record. So it's like anything from that record and on, that's my era of Rush, if you want to call it that. But that's the stuff I was like, oh wow, this is phenomenal. Like that's where I love him.
Excellent. Yeah, there was very few duds in the Rush profile. Absolutely. Some people would argue about Roll the Bones with the rap in it, but they were just trying to have some fun. Yeah,
they don't get enough credit for they don't get enough credit for the first drummer. I forget his name, but like
John Rutsey.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit because like you can't start. He started. It's like, hey, this is he kind of laid the foundation for what transformed. What they transformed into. So it's like people just forget all about him, and I feel like he gets forgotten about in the Rush talk.
Fair enough. Yeah, his approach was not quite as complex or technical as Neil Peart's was, but and their first album was, of course, you could hear the Led Zeppelin influences and the Who influences and all the songs that they later recorded on their kind of cover tribute album. You could hear a lot of those influences bouncing around on the early tracks. But God, I mean, they've been a band since like 1968. They were, and when you're kids, chances are your first pile of material is going to sound like all the stuff that you listen to. It's inevitable, So give them credit for doing what they were doing, and when Neil came along and they got to go in the directions that they did, it sure made life wonderful for all of us, who were big fans. So there you go.
Oh, this is a nice way to wrap everything up, man. Gene, you have the Dethklok tour getting ready to start shortly, and you're gonna have the two date baby clock like tour happening in San Francisco.
That is right. Yeah, we return to the old baby clock action there. That's really fun. That entire entourage was very, very nice to tour with. I mean, the girls are all very sweet girls, and the players in their band are monsters, so, and their show, it is very, vastly different from a Dethklok show, but it's there's no slouch of heaviness, I mean, it's some heavy action that they're laying down too. So that'll be a really fun night, man. I forgot about that part. Yeah, that'll be really cool. Our other tour mates on that run are going to be DragonForce. Hell yeah, man. And then good old Nekrogoblikon. That's going to be a fun tour indeed. Absolutely.
The Nekrogoblikon is always fun.
Darn too.
I have not seen DragonForce with the current singer. Like,
right.
It's been a very long time. I've kept missing them whenever they came around in New York. But yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I can dip around and catch this tour at least once.
Oh, we hope to see you, Omar. Absolutely, man. Definitely.
Now, I understand. I know, you guys playing I know, because the focus isn't you guys playing live; it's the video screens behind you guys, and I enjoy the fact that you guys don't scrimp out on the stage presentation. I was remember seeing the trailers out back of the Hammerstein Ballroom, and it's you got the semi. It's all right, you guys are taking it super serious. Is there, for anybody in the band, was there any issues getting used to playing, I guess there's got to be some kind of click to keep up with the video, or is it all just I know you're the atomic clock and all, but hey, everybody, we need to be focused on all right, here's our cue for the next song. Let's go.
Well, it's a relatively it's complex to me, but it's probably pretty simple to those who do this on a regular basis. But we play to the click, and that's the biggest challenge. Which I love playing to the click. It's really fun. That's why Dethklok is so fun for me. Just it is such a barrage. There's no breaks. There's no. It is a serious assault on your senses. We have to put the warning video screen at the beginning. This could cause seizures and that kind of thing. So that was we have to do that because it's extremely intense. And when the double kicks are flying and the strobe lights are strobing and the all the visuals are matched up to the kicks, we cut everything. All the videos are cut to the drums. So every cut is really sharp with the drums. And Brendon has to tell the crew and the folks in the band, don't watch the screen, we've got a few surprises coming up for this tour. So I was just talking to my tech thumper today, Jeff. Like he's going to be on his way down here. We're swapping out my Chrome kit right here for a kit that I can rehearse on because this one's going on the road with everybody in the next few days. But I was telling him that we have some new content coming, and we were both kind of laughing about it. It's like, okay, make sure the crew watches the video plenty in rehearsals so that live when the big screen is happening, you're watching your guy on stage and not the screen over there that, and all of a sudden, guitar strings are breaking over there and, guitarists are catching on fire or whatever. Just get the screen and the new content out of the way first. But some of the new surprises, I've got to catch a couple of glimpses of them, and they are amazing. Like this is going to be a really exciting run. Some of the new things that are happening on this run are super duper cool. So, we always try to make the Dethklok show very engaging. So that's going to be really fun. But yeah, it's all click base, and there are every tour it happens where we will start, it's all one big timeline. It's not like we push pause in between songs. It's like we essentially, we run the visuals and the click track, we run it off a laptop, and we push play on the laptop at 9:00, and then at 10:10 or whatever, we hit stop, and it just plays one nonstop thing. And there are times when all of a sudden, the show's starting, you're waiting for the click to start, and you're like, uh-oh, we have no click. We have no click. So I am so familiar with the visuals on every single bit of it because I rehearse by myself. I will rehearse with the show playing on my iPad here, with the click tracks going, and I'm just burning every visual into my head. So in case the click track goes down, I know the cuts. I know that, when this part of the song gets to this part right here, the visuals are going to change to something totally different. So if I'm off, and I'm never off, but if the clicks go away, it's like, okay, well, just lock yourself in with it. Fortunately, it's all cut on the downbeat. So it's like, when this visual cuts right here, the music's going to cut right here, and you want to be right on that spot. Where it's coming. There's a lot of responsibility going on my shoulders because, you got 5,000 people out there that have paid their good money. And if there's something going tragically wrong on the stage, they can't know about it. So, and that's how we try to do. Fortunately, those instances are few and far between, but they do happen.
Cool. Give me 30 seconds to wrap this shit up. I gotta run.
I gotcha. Well, everybody, now it's time for me to take this over, man. While our man Omar uses them facilities, let me tell you, boy, we got some fun surprises for you today. Let's see, what can we talk about here? We got, what this thing is here? Let me show you, man. This thing is the coolest. Where's the rest of it? This little jobber here, man. Where is it? Oh, it went flying. Let me see here. This thing right here is just a pretty damn cool vacuum cleaner. This is a vacuum. I'm taking over for your show here, Omar, while you had to go make your run. This is about the cool. Look, what is this thing called? It is called the oh my god, called the Nice Boy. Look at that, by Narwhal or something, by Wall. The Nice Boy. This is the perfect little vacuum cleaner for getting behind your drum kit and cleaning up all your. People call me the wood chipper because I just like wood just explodes off my sticks, and there's constantly just like there's this pile of wood at the bottom of my throne on every drum kit I ever play. So pick yourselves up one of these Nice Boys from Wall there. Thank you for the support there, Wall. There you go.
There's our plug for that. Not sponsored by Wall.
Before you know it, you're gonna
hopefully
be getting all these little mini vacuums in the mail here before you know it, there, Omar. Definitely.
Cool. Yeah. All right, much better now. Good. All right, yeah. I seriously appreciate your time tonight, man. Thank you so much, man. Like, I could keep going on with this, and it's like I have like 8 more questions. I'm just like, no, let's stop now because we can come back and do it. Because it's one last question I will give, because just out of curiosity, since you've been around a long time, you've had a lot of techs. What do you look for like in a drum tech?
Well, I I look for Thumper because Thumper has been my tech for 15 years now, and Jeff Bruce is his name, and he's my brother. He's family. He goes so far above and beyond. We refer to him as the wolf as well, because there's so many times when Jeff has come through in some way where you're like, uh-oh, things are dire, like, oh crap, we left the backdrop over at the guitarist Eric's house, we need it. And Jeff will be the one to run over there and grab it, pick it up before the airport kind of run, that kind of thing. Jeff is an awesome person. And that's what I look for. What I look for in a drum tech or a friend or an associate, a working associate. I have to work with nice people. I have to work with people that have good hearts. And Jeff has one of the best hearts ever. We're both animal fans like crazy. And that's what I've surrounded myself with. I've got a pretty good radar and elbows up and out for folks who put out the weird vibe or the not cool vibe, or this person does not, this person does, there's something about this person that I don't vibe with. So I will just kind of, head out the opposite direction. And so that's the thing about Jeff, is that he's also featured on Pearl just 3 weeks ago, just released a new video. And I'm talking about my drum pedals, with Pearl, the Eliminator Redline series, and Jeff's in that video. So if anybody wants to catch a visual of what Thumper looks like, that's what he is. And he's just a wonderful person. He's family, and he's a very nice person, and he's one of my best pals. And that's the kind of person that I have to be around. I have to be around nice people. I can't be around mean people. I can't be around evil people, and that's just from, I've spent 40 years in this industry. So I know the kind of person I want to work with and be around. Brendon Small, a wonderful person. Lara Christine, a wonderful person. Everybody in Dark Angel, in Death to All, in the Bear McCreary band, or my management, they're all nice people. And that is something that is very important to me. You could be the most talented person in the world. You could be the most talented drum tech in the world. But if you're a jerk and you treat people like a jerk, then I don't have time for that, or an interest in working with somebody like that. And that's one thing about Jeff, for instance, is he will so many times, the young band on the tour, the opening band on the tour, a lot of times this is their first tour, or they have little experience at touring, and everybody comes up at the end of a tour when we have a young band like that, and they say, we just want to say thank you for Jeff, because Jeff was there for us every single night, doing this one task or taking care of this thing for us every night. And Jeff does it out of the goodness of his heart. He's a team player, and that just makes the night go smooth for everybody. It's not like, oh, look at me, I did this nice thing for the opening band. That's not it at all. It's just like, Jeff knows what it takes to get the night done on a nightly basis, and Thumper does that. So that's the great thing about it. By the way, it's spelled Thumper, THMPYR, just so you know. What a great way to spell the word Thumper. How cool is that? And
yeah.
yes. So that's what I look for in a tech. I'm particular, but I'm also pretty relaxed. I know when something's a little bit off, and we'll fix it, and the snare, when the cymbal is this angle, when it should be this angle, that kind of thing. But Jeff is constantly telling me, because I'll let things go. He'll be like, dude, don't let it go. Because I'm like, oh, fuck, it's been like this for 6 shows now. And he's like, dude, I'll fix that for you. I'm like, nah, I just don't want to bother you, man. It ain't no thing. I'm pretty easy going. So, but yeah, that's what I look for in a drum tech, is what I would look for in anybody I would want to work with, is just somebody who's nice, somebody who's intelligent, somebody who's engaging, and somebody who's nice to other people, and a good-hearted person. That's pretty darn simple. That's not a bad thing to look for, I guess. Totally.
I wasn't trying to vie for his job or anything. I was just like, hey, I got to experience a drum teching job myself a few times over the last couple of years. Worked with Corey from God Forbid.
I know Corey. He's awesome.
Yeah, I worked with him on the reunion shows they did here. We did a couple shows here, and he has another band with Corey Glover and called Disciples of Verity, and I've drum tech with them. So it was nice to like get that. Just to get a refresher. It's like, hey, come out. It's like, and it's like he's not one of those guys that like, oh man, you gotta make sure the cymbals are polished. It's like just make sure the cymbals are where they're supposed to be and it's in tune. And it's that simple.
Yeah, Corey's super chill, man. He's so cool, man. I love Corey, man. He's just mellow dude, Yeah. I met Corey Glover one time. Brent Hines from Mastodon introduced me to him. And I was such a huge Living Color fan. I was such a huge Corey Glover fan. I was like, you're in Platoon, for God's sake. I know all this about you. And I remember turning my dad onto Living Color back in 1980. When did the first album come out? Was 1988, perhaps 87? But I remember around that time turning my dad onto Living Color, and we were both huge Carl Anderson fans, and Carl Anderson was probably best known for his portrayal of Judas Iscariot in the Broadway Ted Neely movie version of Jesus Christ Superstar. And I remember playing Living Color for my dad going, don't you think this guy would make a great Judas? Like a great, substitute for Carl Anderson. Sure enough, 30 some odd years later or something like that, Lara, my dad, and myself, we all got to go see Jesus Christ Superstar with Ted Neely in it and Corey Glover as Judas Iscariot, doing a fantastic version. And so when Brent, we were in Australia playing shows, I think Living Color was on the bill. It was a big traveling, Lollapalooza kind of festival. I was like, hey, man, G, come over here, meet my friend Corey. I was like, I fully recognized who it was. And the first thing I said to him was like, I really enjoyed your work in Jesus Christ Superstar. And I thought maybe he would go, cool, man, that's right. Of course I'm in Living Color. Of course, Cult of Personality and all the songs I've done with them. But thank you for that. I think it's like I left a turd in his punch bowl, because he did not seem like, maybe it just had bad memories for him, and maybe it was a cringeworthy experience for him. Maybe he's like, I hope nobody ever brings up the fact that I was ever in Jesus Christ Superstar. I don't know. I'm a huge Jesus Christ Superstar fan. I'm a huge Carl Anderson fan. I'm a huge Corey Glover fan. I thought he did a great job in it. And maybe not, because he was just like, yeah, hey. And he just kind of turned away and walked away, So I'm sorry, Corey Glover. But there you go.
I think Corey is, I think he's ready to go back and do more Broadway stuff. So hopefully something. I told him, I just talked to him recently, and I was like, yeah, when are we going to see you back on Broadway, man? We need to see you. I haven't seen you on screen in a minute. I love the new music you're doing. He's got a new project with Mike Orlando. But I'm like, yeah, you need to, it's like you need to get out there on Broadway. I want to see you on a screen or on a stage.
That new project with Mike Orlando, that's got to be pretty darn killer too, man. I'm sure that is,
Sonic Universe coming out in May. It's really good.
Badass, man. There's a couple of non-slouches there, and they're both their respective departments. So, that should be a pretty cool project. Absolutely.
Correct, man. All right, Gene. Seriously, the third goodbye. Seriously, I thank you so much for your time, man. This has been really fun. I'm glad we got to talk about everything from Dethklok to everything and just, some of your older projects that don't get enough attention, in my opinion. So,
well, I sure do appreciate that attention, man. That was very cool, Omar. Yeah, nobody's ever once brought up Just Cause, ever. Ever. So that's pretty darn cool. Thank you.
I feel like, yeah, I'm like, yeah. That's like, did my, it's like, that was like, I just remember, like, those were some of the records that were like, wow, you're doing stuff. Like, wait a minute, you're doing this. And then the next week you're like, wait, he's on one Old Man's Child. Like, wait, he's going tour with somebody else. You're like filling in for like everybody and their mother, like for like a couple of those like Sounds of the Underground tours. It felt like you were just like, I'm just going to rotate around and like help everybody out for a minute.
Well, I put the hoe in Hoagland. Definitely, man. I'm a drum hoe, totally. So, yeah, I had a very prolific era, definitely. So I'm very fortunate, absolutely.
Yeah, and like it shows in everything you continue to do, and hopefully, in the not too distant future, we'll be hearing rumors of. I'm putting out there because I want it. The Atomic Clock 3.
Oh shoot!
Maybe,
boy,
maybe.
I haven't even thought about something like that, But hey, you never know. You never say never, and who knows what the future might bring? Absolutely, you never know.
For a guy who should have an ego of a maniac, you don't. But I think that that you could be like, oh yeah, you know who I am, but you never do. And I could say you've been nice to me. You've been nice to I'm sure somebody has a bad word to say about you, but I've never heard it. But
well, there you go. Well, shoot, man, I'm sure that the only way you could be truly loved is if you were truly hated. So I would imagine that I probably have my haters out there, but shoot, man, we just send those guys a bunch of love and see how it works out for them.
There we go. Nothing but positivity with Gene Hoagland. Dude, thank you again so much for your time, man. It's been very appreciated. I appreciate it very much, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
The Dethklok tour starts April 7th till early May. So get your tickets and get your asses out there.
Darn tootin'.
All right, Gene. Appreciate you. You enjoy the rest of your night, brother.
You too, Omar. We'll catch you soon. Thank you. Hope to see you on the East Coast there, man.